the theme, as I think you were hinting to, is called Christmas is Forgiveness. And it really gets into the very powerful theme of the whys, the layers and layers and layers of whys we connect with people. And whoever they are, what is our lesson? What are we supposed to be doing here? And the big message in this one was a very touchy subject for a lot of us, which is forgiveness.
Yes. I mean, I totally agree with you that forgiveness can be something that is quite difficult for us. It is about us coming to understand the meaning behind the hurt. And sometimes we understand the meaning, but it is still hard to let go. It's still hard to move beyond that experience, because a lot of the times we did not expect it. It's usually quite shocking how it unfolds, and there is a lot of different aspects of forgiveness. And I believe that Christmas and a lot of holidays all over the world have a spirit of forgiveness, a spirit of love, a spirit of aligning back to love. I'd want to hear a bit more about your book, Christmas is Forgiveness.
Well, I wrote a song also with that title. I had this idea of the title a number of years ago, because you kind of get the double entendre, right? The Christmas is forgiving, right? Giving, it's the time of giving, but it's also forgiving, right? And so like the first verse of the song is,
welcome to the Daily Soul Bar Show. I am your host, Bola Abimbola, frequency alchemist, energy practitioner, and life coach. And today I have a very special guest on Daily Soul Bar Show. Daily Soul Bar Show, we have guests who are experts in the fields of spirituality, who are authors and coaches in the fields of leadership and psychology, who are sharing their insights for the expansion of collective consciousness. And today, Brownell Landrum is back for part 2. Welcome to the show, Brownell.
I'm so happy to be back. We had so much fun last time. I'm just looking forward to tonight.
Yes, it was fun, because in this first episode, I'm going to put the link up for those who missed it. This first episode we did about a couple of months ago. We talked about life as a trip, and this is the fact that we all, we believe in reincarnation. Some of us believe in reincarnation, and it's about how do we come to really experience the gifts that we're living, and from in that sequence, come to understand that sequence, whether it's a linear or a simultaneous journey. That sequence really can carry some meaning for us. And also, we talked about automatic writing. So check out that episode if you haven't seen it. On this episode, we're looking forward to exploring. This is the new book that Brownell is talking about, and it's about forgiveness. And we'll also be talking about Brownell as an explorer of metaphysical mysteries and an inventor. Welcome again, Brownell.
Welcome. Thank you.
So I'm going to read a bit about Brownell's bio before we start. Brownell Landrum is an author, an inventor, songwriter, and explorer of metaphysical mysteries, in addition to being the host and executive producer of Life is a Trip Reincarnation Stories Podcast. And she's the author of The End and the upcoming We Meet Again trilogy. And this is something I want to talk a bit about today. Talk a lot about today. This is the fact that you're an inventor and you're also an explorer of metaphysical mysteries. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, before I get into that, you just mentioned the upcoming, and that got launched since we talked last time. So I do have my novel trilogy, We Meet Again, is out there, and the first book in the trilogy is 99 cents through the end of the year. So I want to make sure people know that before we get into that. Yes, I invented believe it or not, a game, and it was used in mostly in relationship building, corporate training, team building kind of thing. And it was extremely powerful and beautiful, and I just really loved it. It was kind of tied into a business that I used to run, and then I just kind of went off into my writing tangent and put that on the back burner. But it was a way for people to understand who they are, basically, kind of a personality typing thing, and a brainstorming thing and a way of breaking the ice. And it helped companies come up with ideas and solutions for their businesses. It helped people become, like I did one on diversity. So it helped people understand like the power of diversity and how different we can be. I had a program on efficiency. I had one on communication. And what you did throughout the game is you found out your personality type, how you are at work, how you are at home, and how you're perceived by others. And I even had a student program that never quite got out into the world like I wanted it to, but really, really incredible for kids, mostly middle school, high school age kids, to start seeing the power of diversity and starting to kind of expand their views beyond their world, right? I mean, like ways to understand, okay, we use this model that's called the Tuckman model, where the first stages of meeting somebody is forming, right? You're just getting to know somebody. The next level can be storming, where you're kind of like, okay, wait a minute, you're different. What are we going to do about this? And then the next level is norming, which is like, okay, now I understand you and you understand me. But to get to the last stage, which is performing, it's I know you and you know me, and we know how to adapt to each other to get along better. So that's really what I did, and it's a non-competitive game. People thought, no, games have to be competitive, and it's like, no. You can have games where people, interact, and there's not necessarily competition. So, and I started inventing another one for conflict resolution that is still kind of on the back burner, but I do love those kind of inventions.
Thank you, Brownell. What is the name of that game? The one that's the one that you've talked.
Yeah, it's called Draw Success. So if you can go to drawsuccess.com if you want to see more about that and how we worked and the way it all kind of came together.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that, because we all have different personality constructs within us, and how we become much more aware of those personality constructs, and how we can really begin to accept and love and go through those stages. I love those stages you mentioned.
Because I do believe
powerful.
I think that the world is made up of these different types. And so the more we understand that, the more we can say, wait a minute, the more diverse we are, the stronger we're going to be. The more opportunity for conflict, but the stronger we'll be, because we won't all be the same thing, doing the same thing, the same way.
There is a need for us to really come to understand ourselves a lot more, because it is really from that place that the reflection becomes something that we are aligning to a lot more. Because whatever is within us, the deeper understanding we have within us is really what allows us to develop relationships with others. So I love the fact that your game is going to really help to understand the immensity of perspectives within and around us. So thank you for that. I'd also love to know a bit about how you explore metaphysical mysteries. I know one way is the book that you've written, which is The End, a love story with the universe. Could you tell us a bit about this and how it explores metaphysical mysteries?
And that story is my most personal, my most autobiographical, semi-autobiographical to date that I've ever written. And so it's been the ultimate exploration, right? As we're all going through our own development and exploration and immersion and who we are and what our roles are in the world. It's been such a surreal experience. I started writing this story, and as I'm writing it, I'm thinking that I'm writing it from the point of view of I'm writing from the point of view of what I call the upstairs, which is a team that's upstairs. And as I'm writing it, I realize that they're telling me who they really are. So it becomes, and it's a very personal experience. I talk about what I call traffic angels, which is like, if you're here and somebody else is here, then how do they get us together? And I really do think that there are angels or entities on the other side that are like, okay, how do you get an American woman to meet a British man in Tunisia? Like the logistics of that. And so I'm writing this story, and I'm thinking it's fiction, and all of a sudden I realize they're telling me who they are. and they've been so active in my life. So, I've written a lot of stories on like reincarnation and people with special powers and, the afterlife and things like that. But I've never written a story that's like autobiographical and that is manifesting itself in real life. I mean, like, that's the ultimate metaphysical mystery, right? That we're all trying to figure out our lives. And this was just really profound.
I love that. I totally agree with you. This is the mystery that we've all come into this earth plane. And it's really about how we come to understand that we are spirit beings, and how we can come to understand that we're also not alone. There is, there are guides that are working with us. And I love the way that your life is now. And this is the same way for me. My life is also now reflecting whatever I believe. And that is a very powerful thing, that, we believe in synchronicity. We believe in things coming together, not by any manipulation of our own. We're being guided. I'd love you to talk a bit more about this, about how, there is an upstairs, and I know you talk about this in your book. There is an upstairs and there is us. And how do we begin to pull this together? How do we begin to understand and flow with it? Because this is the important thing. It's about flow. How do we begin to trust and flow, so that the wisdom that is truly ours begins to really manifest and unfold in our day-to-day?
It's been just really this really, really incredible experience, because once I started realizing they were real, and that while I'm writing, and I think writing is a really great tool to connect. And so at least to first, and just start writing, and you never know what's going to write, whether you call it automatic writing or you're thinking you're making up stuff. Like I tell people with reincarnation stories, I said, just start with something and just keep writing, and eventually the truth will come out. And, you don't have to prove it to anybody. You'll know yourself how real it is. And so I'm writing this, and then, of course, I'm also in a meditative state, and I'm also kind of like, what do you all want me to write? What do you want me to do? And I've just noticed so much that when I'm doing what they want me to do, then I feel this boost of energy, like they are really with me all the time. And, I know a lot of people, might say, okay, well, I've got this spiritual belief and I know I'm being guided. And I feel like there are stages of that where we might lose that, or we might think it's not there, or we might have to kind of have another perspective of it. But I'm living this nomadic life. I don't know where I'm going to be next. And yet I'm saying to them, where do you want me to go? What do you want me to do? What do you want me to write? And I wrote the end, a love story to the universe. And I thought, it's called The End, right? I thought it was going to have an end. And then all of a sudden, a few months ago, they came to me and said, there's a part 2. And I'm like, oh, there is. And if you read the story, you're thinking, how can there be a part 2? Well, I literally just yesterday finished the first draft of part 2, and I got some feedback from somebody, and she's like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. And she just loved the story. And it's the theme, as I think you were hinting to, is called Christmas is Forgiveness. And it really gets into the very powerful theme of the whys, the layers and layers and layers of whys we connect with people, and whoever they are. What is our lesson? What are we supposed to be doing here? And the big message in this one was a very touchy subject for a lot of us, which is forgiveness.
Yes. I mean, I totally agree with you that forgiveness can be something that is quite difficult for us. It is about us coming to understand the meaning behind the hurt. And sometimes we understand the meaning, but it is still hard to let go. It's still hard to move beyond that experience, because a lot of the times we did not expect it. It's usually quite shocking how it unfolds, and there is a lot of different aspects of forgiveness. And I believe that Christmas and a lot of holidays all over the world are have a spirit of forgiveness, a spirit of love, a spirit of aligning back to love. I want to hear a bit more about your book, Christmas is Forgiven.
Well, I wrote a song also with that title. I had this idea of the title a number of years ago because you kind of get the double entendre, right? The Christmas is forgiving, right? Giving, it's the time of giving, but it's also forgiving, right? And so, like, the first verse of the song is Christmas is for giving, Christmas is for grace, Christmas is for packages all tied up with lace. So you kind of get the idea of like, well, wait a minute, forgiving. Okay, yes, we know it's forgiving gifts. And then, but the chorus is Christmas is forgiveness, Christmas is for friends, and it's up to each of us how our story ends, right? So it really is a responsibility. And I created a forgiveness meditation, which I'm offering to everybody for free, and we can even do a brief version of it if you want to tonight. And as I'm creating this, I'm dealing with something on a physical level, right? And so much of our hurt and our pain from our past holds in our bodies. And I was dealing with something, and this was a number of months ago, where I've got to do a meditation on this. And I look at the person who hurt me, and I instead of being like, my first book, I wrote a whole chapter on forgiveness. It's about the 5 reasons why bad things happen, and we can get into that if you want. But that one is like, okay, if you want to be forgiven, you have to go through these steps, blah, blah, blah. And now I'm kind of at this whole nother transcendent place, obviously with help from upstairs, to look at just as the energy of forgiveness, right? It's an energy. And so in this meditation, the first step is to just think of the person and just send them the energy of forgiveness. And then you start realizing that hurt people hurt people. So somebody hurt them in order for them to do what they did to me. So then you have to go, I have to forgive the people who hurt them, right? Because something happened there. Excuse me. And so when I'm writing the story and I'm thinking, I've got to write part 2, I had this idea for this song, which my brother wrote the music to today. So I got the very first draft of the song from the music. And if I had any dream, it would be like, can this song be on next year's Christmas albums? That would be really fun. But I had this idea, and I had the idea for the song, but then when it tied into the end, and it tied into this relationship, and it tied into all the things that this relationship brought out in me, and the lessons, the messages, and the opportunities for forgiveness. It was just so incredible writing it and learning it. And now I got the first feedback from one of the readers, and they just said, "Oh my God, now I can sleep better." I mean, that was her first reaction, was, "I can sleep better tonight after reading that story." It's only 5,300 words. It's not like it's a huge novel. It feels really good.
Well, that's wonderful. I would love to for you to do this meditation, because it's really, it's really about us coming to understand how letting go allows us to surrender even more, and the different modalities that we use to let go. Forgiveness is a really powerful modality, and at this time of the year, I'm really glad that Brownell, you were here to really help us, all of us, really come to a deeper level of letting go, deeper level of surrender. So if you want to take it away and show us or share with us this meditation, and we can all do this together.
Yes, because it only takes a few minutes. I'm probably, the version that I have that everybody can listen to for free is maybe 5 minutes. I don't know how long it's going to take us to go through it, but we'll get the idea of it, right? And it's something that can be done. I mean, probably shouldn't close your eyes while you're driving or anything, but beyond that, you can kind of do it anytime. You can be walking down the street, is when I very first did it. And so basically what you do is you kind of visualize in your mind, who is this person that you want to forgive? For me, it was somebody from many, many decades ago. I mean, it's somebody I probably isn't even alive today, but it was still in my body. It was still affecting me. And so let's all kind of imagine in our minds somebody that we have been holding on to resentment that we need to let go of, to your point, and think about this person and just say, I forgive you. And now let's imagine the people who hurt that person. What created that person to become the person that hurt you? Because someone hurt them in order for them to hurt you. So now let's imagine that we're in a room and all those people that hurt them are in the room too. And it could be their parents, it could be their, and then their parents probably were hurt by somebody, maybe their parents. So all of the sequence, all of the ancestry of everyone that was in that person's life that created them and created the situation that made them into the person that hurt you, let's all just say, I forgive you. All of these people, I forgive you. And now let's think about this, because there's a part of us that let that happen. There's a part of us that our body, our mind, or our spirit, maybe all three, allowed that person in our life for a reason. There was something about us that allowed that to happen. And so now what I want to do is I want to say to our bodies, I forgive you. I forgive you for letting that happen. And I forgive my mind for the things that I might have missed, the signs I might have missed, the signals. I forgive you. And then maybe our spirit, maybe there's a part of us that might even have some resentment for our higher selves, for our spirit guides, for whatever you want to call those people upstairs that we think should have our back, and maybe we don't necessarily think they did. And so we want to say, I forgive you. And now let's look at all the people in our own ancestry and history. Everyone that created the person that we are today. And let's feel that energy of forgiveness and then feel the love behind that energy of forgiveness. And say, I forgive you. It could be our parents. It could be our grandparents. It could be anyone in the lineage of our history. It could be friends, family, anyone that might have been a role in this. And just say those words. I forgive you. And we can feel that energy. And we can feel that whole room full of all these people. And we can feel the love that comes from that. And we can feel the lessons that we learned from that. And we can even feel maybe gratitude from those lessons. Because as we go through the message of forgiveness, we're going through the doors of perception from all the other people's point of view. Because they need to be forgiving themselves as well. So one more time, let's just say, I forgive you. And so it is.
That is so beautiful. Thank you so much. I feel that, Brownell. It's a very powerful energy of love. There is, as we breathe that in and out, that is such a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful gift, at Christmas. That's really lovely. Thank you so much, Brownell. And I would love you to share with us a little bit about your, there is something you're doing at the moment. You're in Tunisia and you've traveled all the way. Where were you?
Aspen for a while, and then I went to Atlanta for a few months, and so I came here from Atlanta a little over a week ago, I guess, or almost 2 weeks ago. So yeah.
What's it like? What's it like being in Tunisia at the moment? Just following as you're being led, living this nomadic lifestyle from a place of love. Because it's really about you trusting that, the guides that you have and allowing the guides to really show you your next steps. And it takes a lot of courage and audacity to do this. So I would love you to share a bit about that experience.
Thank you. It really is. Well, first of all, it's a beautiful place, and I feel like when I came, I was here earlier this year. So I was actually returning to Tunisia, And I came here, just as a little bit of background. I was going to go to Italy, and because Italy was not taking applications for visas, I could only go 3 months. So I needed to go somewhere else in the interim, and that had to be outside of the European Union. And I looked at Tunisia and I thought, well, that looks nice. I think I'll go there. And so I spent a few months earlier this year here, and it was so beautiful, it was so healthy, and it's super, super affordable. And for me, I was finishing my novels, the We Meet Again novels, and when I came here before, so I was just working, and it's just like a writer's retreat, very healthy. I'm in a luxury resort on the Mediterranean. I can hear the surf in the background, for a little over $1,000 a month, including 2 meals a day. So it was like, if I'm going to go somewhere, this is like really, really nice. And so I came back a couple of weeks ago, about 10 days ago, and I can't tell you how many hugs I got from the people who work here. I mean, it was just so beautiful and so precious. And, even then, I mean, like, not many people speak much English. I don't really speak much French, and I don't speak any Arabic. There's still just a really, really beautiful energy. It's super healthy. And I'm just not sure where I'm going to go next. I just felt the need to get out of the United States for a while and kind of go in a direction. And I don't know where it's going to take me. I really, really don't. And so it's a scary time. Like you said, sometimes we have to kind of surrender to spirit or to the upstairs or whatever words we want to use. But it's exciting and it's also scary. So I'm just sitting here and having a great conversation with you and just trying to enjoy my life as much as I can.
I love that. And I'm sending you lots of love and grace. This is so powerful when we are surrendering to that flow and letting that higher self drive our day to day. That's what Daily Soul Bites. Daily Soul Bites, my book, now available anywhere books are sold. It's really about the immensity of perspectives within us, the higher self perspectives and the physical ego selves. And how we can begin to understand all those immensity of perspectives within us and surrender more and more to the higher perspectives, and they're usually sometimes unknown, and it's staying in that state of flow and allowing that state of flow to materialize the things that we really consider our best outcomes. Sometimes it takes us by surprise, but it's about staying in trust, staying in that place of surrender, and it's an interesting way to adventure life. So I am also living in that space now, really kind of enjoying that flow. And it takes a lot of trust on a daily basis, surrendering to it and allowing your higher self to really shower you with love and guidance in the different ways we receive intuition. So that's really cool.
Yeah, exactly. And like you're saying, you have to know how to stay in contact, right? And you have to know how to feel the feelings because, in the Christmas is Forgiveness story, the sequel to or at least the part 2 to the end, so much of it was lots of painful stuff too, right? But then the painful stuff is where the lessons can come from. As somebody who's a writer, and I have a little bit of this in that story as what good is a story if the character starts out and everything's great and ends the story and everything's great and nothing happens to them? Like, we want to read stories where the characters are challenged and they have to go up against obstacles and they have to kind of show who they're made, what they're made of, and who they are at a very powerful level. And as I was writing that particular story and just looking at like, wow, I had to go through this to learn this experience. I had to go through this to learn this experience. And I keep wanting to say I want to learn through joy, and I do. But we also learn a lot from the challenges. The obstacles that are ahead of us. What are we made of? It's like, muscle isn't built by atrophy. Muscle's built by pushing that strength. So it's
going through the resistance and beyond.
Yes, exactly. And so you have to trust, is this happening for a reason? There's a concept that I think I might write a book about someday, but I call it reverse optimism. And it's when you can look back at the things that happened to you and go, oh, that's why that happened. It was not fun to go through, but if I hadn't gone through that, I wouldn't be where I am. And I needed that. And it got me to this new level, and in this story, it is about a relationship and like, what did I learn through that experience and how can it take me to whatever the next stage is? So
that's
that's like
it is a very powerful difference in the way we experience pain, the way we experience challenges. The beliefs that we hold really matter. They can take us into suffering, or they can take us into transformation. How we can come to experience pain. It is an inevitable part of body consciousness. It's an inevitable part of life. But it's about how we can allow that pain to transform as opposed to stay in the suffering through the beliefs that we hold. So I really appreciate you sharing that. And I wanted to ask you, Byron, where can people find your book and the meditation and the song?
My website is my name, brownelllandrum.com. I'm the only Brownell Landrum, so you can Google me and find me a bunch of places. I have a Facebook group called Life is a Trip that's tied to my podcast, the Life is a Trip podcast. Google me, find me on YouTube, find me on Facebook. I just got on Blue Sky, so you can find me there too. I just love to share these things. I love to share these stories. I love to get feedback from people. My We Meet Again novel, just so people can know what that is. It's a trilogy. It's kind of this epic reincarnation mystery about a famous couple from history who are reincarnated today to fulfill a prophecy that'll change the world. So it's like part Da Vinci Code, part Outlander with a reincarnation theme and multiple lifetimes and time periods. So that first book is 99 cents through the end of the year. So I love to hear from readers. It's one of my favorite things. And so if you did the meditation, or you read the end, or you read one of my novels, I'd love to hear from people and tell me how it affected you and how maybe, and especially the forgiveness meditation, because as we were saying, you go through the hard times, there's nobody to forgive, then how are you going to learn the whole concept of forgiveness? And so I just love to share all of that with everybody.
Thank you for joining me again today, Brownell.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it as usual.
Thank you. And I'd love to thank our listeners and the audience for joining us today, and to invite you to connect with Brownell Landrum. Check out her books, many books, and her poems and her songs, and it will all be available on her website. And I also want to invite you to check out Daily Soul Bytes. And it's also out on audiobook and paperback and Kindle. So yes, let us connect. Let's connect for the expansion of our individual and collective consciousness. I look forward to seeing you again on the next episode of the Daily Soul Bytes show. Bye-bye.